Hello there, and welcome to Sweet Child of Time. I'm your host, Steve Barnes. Today we're recapping Dark, Season 3, Episode 6. This one's called Light and Shadow. I would be remiss if I did not mention that there is a Wheel of Time chapter called Light and Shadow as well. There always is. Such parallels. Let's get to another parallel. She is also your host. She's the host of one of my stories, and she's got our written recap for us. It's Lindsey Dunn. Ahoy there, Lindsey!
Ahoy, Steve! We're ready for episode 6.
Oh, so ready. Like, remember last episode was ended with Jonas dying and stuff. So this one was a nice reprieve from that, I think. I think this one came back with a banger.
Also, yeah, it's quite a banger, and it's a double banger because it's the last written recap I have still. So I need to get busy on that episode 7 recap coming
Just
up.
in time for Christmas.
Yeah, lighting the fire underneath me.
So maybe you can do episode 7 on Christmas Day, and then you can do episode 8 on New Year's Eve instead of going out to party. How's that sound?
That sounds like a bummer, Steve, but...
It is. I mean, that's my kind of party. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But hey, I wanted to start off with some corrections. I'm going to go back before we really get into our thing here, because I said something wrong 2 episodes back that we didn't catch. Well, we caught it, but nobody else caught it. I attributed The Stranger to Jim Croak, and it's actually Leonard Cohen's song who influenced our friend. What is that fella's name who did that song for us a couple episodes back?
It's something Abbottson. It's the same person that wrote Twisted Olive Branch, Asif Abaddon.
That's right. And he attributed, like, he said that he was influenced heavily by Leonard Cohen, not Jim Croakey. Maybe, I don't know, but I just got the two guys mixed up because they had the same amount of letters in their last name. I think that's what happened there. So another thing I got wrong too was I didn't get it wrong, but I just got a correction and a dressing down, I suppose, from one of our listeners named Heather, who's also my wife. She listened last episode, and she was talking about I was talking about the burl trees and saying, how they have these, these big growths on them, but they're non-tumorous, they're non-cancerous. That's wrong. They are tumorous. They are cancerous. So it fits in even better with our story. Heather corrected me as like, yeah, those are cancerous tumorous growths, which don't really affect the tree terribly, but that you got that wrong. So I needed to correct that for her if she's listening now. Give her some credit.
That's it. Heather, keep calling Steve out. It's good.
Yeah, you and Lindsey can like team up good on that one. But yeah, she gave me good feedback as well. I mean, she's my wife. So actually, no, she doesn't have to, because she did tell me I got the burl wrong. And she does tell me when I edit things wrong and when I do a bad job. And she liked the last episode. So that's good feedback. You got some feedback from us too, don't you, Lindsey?
Well, yes, your buddy Dylan, our buddy Dylan, but I kind of think of him as your buddy because you're the one that talks to him more. But yeah, now he's my bro.
Oh, so that's cool. I can share him.
Yeah, I got a message here from Dylan. He says that to mention how impressed he is with us and me, my note taking, and he says, allow me to exalt you. And I'm like, okay, yes, you can do that. And then Steve is always articulate and well-spoken. And he doesn't think he could consider another podcast. So it's us or nothing.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, don't listen to Pod Save America. Don't check that out. Don't check out Who Charted. Just listen to us. Only us. I like that.
I'm assuming he means our podcast about Dark.
Okay. All right.
Not like never listen to he could never listen to any other podcast again, but he just says, I don't know that I'd consider another podcast. So
great. Thank you, Dylan. Appreciate it.
Compliment.
My boy. Yeah. And yeah, I heard that you got recap from your website too, right? Or are we going to get into that later on?
We are. If you're talking about the feedback from the Facebook group, I was going to save that for in the actual recap.
Okay, hold your horses, Holger. We'll get to you later. But yeah, I didn't have anything really up top to go into here. I think maybe next week I'll probably release the episode I did with Corwin, which was a blast. We had a great time talking about Wheel of Time last week. So I'll probably release that next week, and hopefully me and Lindsay will be back the week after that, or maybe the week after that. But yeah, let's get into our episode 6 because I'm eager to get into it. Light and Shadow, Lindsay, what do you think?
Okay, sounds good. Let's do it. Light and shadow.
Hey, Steve from Sweet Shot of Time here to tell you about our latest sponsor, which is Zencastr. It's how we do our podcasts now. Zencastr is great for connecting with others because I can connect with other people. I got them all on screen with me. I can record them super easy. And the best thing about Zencastr is to me, the best thing is it records locally. So if I'm recording with someone and their Wi-Fi connection is weak or they're cutting in and out or something, it will still record everything they said perfectly. I might not be able to hear it while we're recording, but in the edit, all of it's there. I love it so much for that reason. I always get a good, strong connection with Zencastr. It really makes it really easy to edit the podcasts afterwards. And I guess the main thing about Zencastr is, for me, it's free because I'm sponsored by them. But for you, you can start off getting 30% off if you use my promo code, which is Sweet Child of Time, and you can start out with that 30% off coupon. Now, there's some stuff that I have to tell you, and I'm going to tell you right now. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code Sweet Child of Time, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. If you want to have the same easy experience I do for all my podcasting and content needs, it's time to share your story. Woo! Sweet Shot of Time is sponsored by Promoco RVA. Recreational use of marijuana is now legal in Virginia. But where do you get it? Google up Promoco RVA, that's spelled Promoco RVA, and schedule services with these guys. Sweet Shot of Time can vouch for their professionalism and their products. They have wide varieties of vapes, flower, edibles, everything you can think of, and they're open from Monday to Saturday from 11 to 7. You can schedule your own appointment at your convenience, get verified online, and it's that simple. Promoco RVA for your Richmond, Virginia needs. Or if you're in DC, you can visit their storefront at 1813 18th Street Northwest. Or just check out the link in this description notes. Hey, Promoco, thanks.
This episode opens with a replay of the apocalypse. In a bird's eye view of Wyndon, the black blob appears and covers the entire power plant. We cut to the Conwald house. Jonas promises to OG Marta that he will make things right. Snot and tears run down his face. But this time, no alt Marta shows up to drag Jonas to World 2, Eva's world. This time, Jonas runs into a stairwell and escapes into the basement right before the apocalypse hits.
Right.
Stranger Jonas then wakes up in 1888. He pulls out the envelope he found from Marta addressed to Jonas, and he opens the letter and reads it. Now, I'm going to read the transcript of the letter here, but did you have any thoughts about this Jonas thing, or you can save it for later, too, as we say more?
Sure. I'll just interrupt real quick and say that, yeah, this really surprised me. It threw me through a loop here. A lot of things in this episode threw me through a real loop, and I found myself writing down a lot of question marks. Fortunately, a lot of those question marks were answered by the end of this very episode. So some of the conundrums that I had are addressed here, and I like that. So the biggest question I had here about Stranger Jonas, how is he having this dream? It's kind of answered by the end of the episode, which I love. The other thing I wanted to bring up was, of course, when the apocalypse happens, we got the big black blob that happens over the power plant. And that made me remember the Regina and Alexander moment. Just randomly at the end of, I think it was episode 1, and it wasn't during the apocalypse. They were sitting in their car and they saw it happen. I
Right.
want to revisit that maybe on a later episode, unless you had like a quick answer for that, or do you have an answer for that? Because I was really confused by that point.
Yeah, like what was happening at that moment that they had the
Yes.
little mini it was like almost like a mini apocalypse.
Well, it was clear in the sky, so I would think that more
Yeah.
people than just them saw it.
Mhm. But was it over the power plant? I'll have to
Yes.
revisit it as well.
Yeah, we'll maybe talk about that in an upcoming episode. I'll let you continue with what you got there.
Yeah. Um, I will the one thing I wanna say is that we had I think the last episode, we also had some Jonas information, and you were mentioning, like, "Oh, this clarifies the Jonas situation for me," and I was like, "Well, I think I got clarified more on this episode."
Mm-hmm.
Because there was that whole question, again, like the question we keep repeating, which is, how did Jonas if Jonas dies, how did Jonas, become older?
Right.
And now we're getting some of that but yeah, it's just a little interesting because we're like, okay, we know that Marta came to save him, so then he's looking at her body, and then he kind of stands up like he's waiting for something to happen, and then nothing happens, and we are too. And then we just see him like run into this closet, which was interesting because I thought that was the front door, because I remember he also that's also like
The geography
spatially
of the
that's
house.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's also where Katerina, when
Mm-hmm.
she broke into the house, she came from that direction. So now I'm kind of like, okay, where's the front door? And compared to this secret panel basement that was in the house.
Yeah,
Um,
they had a bunker too apparently in their
mhm,
basement that he could survive the apocalypse. I'll
right.
buy it. They're a ready town.
Oh, so okay, so the letter, we finally get to see
Mm-hmm.
the contents of this letter. It
Right.
says, "Dear Jonas, you promised to make everything right again. I want you to know you will do that. You must never lose hope that there is a way out of this maze, a way to save me and you. But we both have to make sacrifices, do unimaginable things, to untie the knot at the end. Each fate in this knot is tied to the next. A thread red like blood that connects all our deeds, in light and in shadow. But the apocalypse must take place. You must let me die so I can live. We have to let some things go before they find their way back to us. We are a perfect match. Never believe anything else."
Heck yeah. Like by the end of this episode, these words make a lot more sense as well. They kind of like wraps back around on itself. And one of my first questions was, where did he get this letter from? When exactly did Martha give him this letter?
Mhm.
It's answered later in this very same episode, so we'll see it when it comes.
Well, we already saw him get the letter in the first world. He was sitting waiting, remember he had the gun. He was waiting for Adam to show up, and then Hanno or Noah shows up, teen Noah, and he's like,
Hmm.
"Here's this letter from
Hmm.
Marta." Um so we did see him get
But
the letter earlier.
we also see him get the letter. We see someone deliver this exact same letter later on in this episode.
Right, after he burns the letter. So,
Right.
which we see him do that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
little bootstrap action.
Um, because all we saw in that original thing is he gets the letter, and then he kind of runs out of the house and says grabs a suitcase, time machines, and just this like,
Yeah.
Noah says, "You have to go save them." So then he goes to save the teen team, but it was like they got Jonas out of the way so that, Adam could come and do his dirty work. So I have some more thoughts about the letter later on, but um, so we see Marta 2 sitting by Jonas's dead body, and then the Marta who shot Jonas looks up,
Hmm.
and she's standing next to stranger Marta and Eva, and all three of them look at the God particle, which shifts from stable to unstable.
Yeah, they got the solar panels on their side in Eva's world. Again, a very smarter method, much smarter. Those panels.
Yeah, I didn't understand the panels or like why they have those solar panels. They're
Probably gravity based or something, I'm guessing. Um,
yeah.
I just wanted to go back on the letter.
Mhm.
First off, she's a super like of course Martha's gonna throw in some Ariadne in
Mhm.
there because she's like a super fan. And then I was also wondering, Wheel of Time and Game of Thrones, people like to use the lore of the show and like the loving words of the show in like their everyday language and like their marriage proposals. I wonder how many dark couples and fans have incorporated these words, some of these words, like into their wedding or to like their words to one another, like what is the main one? We're a perfect match. Never believe anything else. These are perfect wedding words.
Mhm.
So yeah, anybody out there ever use these with with your other? Let me know.
Right. But how many people used a thread red like blood that connects all our deeds? I want to know those people.
Tell Lindsay
That's
them.
a little more interesting.
No, you're right. You're right.
But this letter is interesting because she's almost I guess the point is to like make sure that he lets the apocalypse happen.
Right.
Like what's
Yes.
when you think about what's the purpose of this letter is to like so
To
that the loop
reinforce the
continues.
sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah, to reinforce the sacrifice and to reinforce what they're doing.
But then she kind of makes this promise. I want you to know you will do that. So that makes me feel curious like why she would put that line in there.
You mean the first line? You promise to make everything right
Yeah, you
again?
promise to make everything right again. Then the next line is, I want you to know you will do that.
Right. I think because Eva explains it later on how like the infinity symbol has like two loops, so two things have to happen. So he's going to
Right.
do both things, and she knows that. But to tell him that would blow his mind, I guess. So you can only give them as much information as they need at the moment.
But neither one of them really wants Jonas to be able to make everything right. So I guess they're just dangling this, carrot in front of him, that
Quote
how,
unquote, make it
yeah,
right.
yeah,
That can be loosely interpreted.
I guess. It's a little aggravating, I guess, that
Oh yeah.
to think about. Yeah, but to think about Marta now. Yeah, does Marta ever really write the letter? It's another question we need to explore a little bit later,
Well, we see older Martha doing it, but I guess yes,
but
we
it's
can we
kind
can
of
hold on to
like
that.
it's very yeah, that scene is very much the same as like Mikkel writing his letter. He wrote the letter because he was told to write the letter. But yeah, we'll get
You
there a
mean
little bit later.
Michael Mickle? Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Eva was probably holding a gun to her head, telling her to do it. That's
Yeah.
right.
This is another big mirroring. This letter is another big mirroring moment this whole episode. Lots of letter
Oh, sure.
mirroring. Um so yeah, after we read this letter, we then get the picture of Marta 2 sitting by Jonas's dead body. Then there's the three different generations of Martas looking at the God particle.
Mhm.
In World 1, Alt Marta walks in front of the girl from the
Yes, yes,
future,
yes.
who holds her at gunpoint. The girl from the future forces her into a cage. Alt Marta wonders aloud why Adam is doing this. Elsewhere, Adam stands in his creepy trench coat, looking at the unstable God particle in his world. Adam looks down at his hands, holding the letter. We then cut to Stranger Jonas reading the same letter. After he finishes reading, he burns the letter. Stranger Jonas does, an echo of the time he tried to burn his father's letter in a similar way. Stranger Jonas has just been abandoned by Alt Marta, and it's left to the viewer to decide if he's trying to honor Marta's wishes to let her go so she can live, or if he actually wants to forget Marta after she left him. When he burns his father's letter, he chooses to let go of Mikkel in favor of the hope of being with Marta.
Right.
even if we don't understand his actions, it's still a cool parallel. We see multiple Martas and are still trying to piece together the difference between some of them. At least I was. One conundrum remains. We saw two versions of what happens when Marta dies. In one version, Alt Marta appears and saves Jonas. He then dies. And in the other version, Jonas hunkers down during the apocalypse and reappears as Stranger Jonas. That Jonas is alive and kicking in 1888. So which version is true?
Both versions are true.
Right.
Seriously, yeah, both versions are true. Both versions have to happen in order for this whole loop to be complete.
Yeah, but we
That's my
don't.
short answer.
Right. But we, at this point in the episode, we
Oh
didn't have that
yeah, we're
explanation.
confused.
Yeah.
We're confused.
All right. So then we have the title credits. Any thoughts about that question, though, Steve? Why did Stranger Jonas? Why do you think Stranger Jonas burned Alt Marta's letter?
I don't know. I kind of had a problem with it. I think it's kind of. I'm looking you in the eye, by the way. So this is like me looking you in the eye. I think it is a little bit of him becoming Adam, of trying to like burn the world down. Because we see at the end of this episode what happens between Adam and Martha. And here is, Adam as a middle aged man, Stranger Jonas. I just think it's kind of like a foreshadowing of what he's to become.
Mm-hmm.
That was my thought. I don't know if it's correct or not, but that's kind of the gist that I got.
Yeah, because you might think, oh, um, Jonas, like he might take this letter as like a hope, continued hope, because this is Alt
Hmm.
Marta supposedly telling him to keep hoping and to like keep him going. So you might think he'd want to keep the letter as like a souvenir of their
Oh,
love or
yeah.
their connection,
Sure.
but instead he chooses to burn the letter. And again, going back to the parallel with his father's letter, when he burned his father's letter, it was because the stranger came and said, he's basically trying to get him, if you pick up Mikkel, you'll never be born and you won't get to be with Marta. So he kind of burns the letter because he's choosing to forget. So
Hmm.
if it's a parallel, then he's choosing to forget his connection with Marta here.
Yeah, I kind of buy that. Yeah.
But I'm not sure exactly why he would. Like, has he already become a nihilist in this moment? Yeah, it's like I think he was really
Yeah.
upset at Marta leaving him.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
so too.
We'll move on from the letter for now. Marta, too, comes out of the Eret Lux lair, her hands covered in blood. Words on screen tell us the day of the apocalypse. In World 2,
Yes.
Marta goes to her house, the Conwald house. She vigorously washes her hands, desperately trying to get the blood off, but her efforts prove futile. Her breaths come in desperate gasps. She's having a panic attack and finds blood in her hair, on her clothes. She takes off the yellow raincoat and sweater, leaving only gray behind.
That's a pretty cool observation, Lindsay. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the yellow comes off and now here comes the gray. I like that.
Yeah, and I don't think I put this in the recap, but yeah, it's and it's for her, it's the same kind of thing, maybe like losing hope. She takes off that
Yeah.
happy color.
Yeah, I totally see that now. I made a note of that later, but you're right. She takes off the yellow to reveal the gray underneath. And this is like our fourth character to do this, to run to the kitchen sink and wash blood off their hands frantically while they're freaking out. And we just saw Helene do it in the last episode. We saw
Helene.
Claudia do it the
Hmm.
episode before that. And then I believe Claudia did it again after the Egon spill. No, I think she just sat there and yelled at the sky. I know at
What was?
least three characters.
Yeah, I remember Claudia, but that's a good call. It's a good call with Helene. I guess I was like kind of leaving her out of the mix because we don't like her, whereas we kind of feel a little more sympathy for Claudia and,
We can forget her. Yeah, that's
yeah.
fine.
But no, that is true. Like, it's that image of what they Lady Macbeth washing her
Mhm.
hands.
Yep.
When she hears the front door open, she throws her soiled clothes in the trash, which was an interesting strategy. Okay,
Yes.
she must have a lot more clothes than I do because I'm like, I have 2 jeans, pairs of jeans that
Right.
fit, you know? Um, Magnus finds her in the kitchen and starts to give her a lecture. Katerina has been looking for her, and everyone was worried. His words falter once he notices her disheveled appearance. He can tell she's been crying and goes to hug her and demands to know what's wrong. Marta replies that Bartosz was right, that it's the end of the world. Something will happen today at the nuclear power plant. Bartosz's father will try to hide something in the barrels. Magnus goes from protective and listening to dismissive. He thinks Marta is full of psycho crap. He says that mom doesn't deserve to be made to worry before walking out the door.
Yeah, he kinda turned pretty quick, didn't he? At first, he was, like, loving and, like, concerned, and then he was like she's still, like, a mess, and he just leaves. So, at first, I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, Magnus nice." Then I was like, "Magnus mean. I don't like Magnus right now."
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of I mean, we all like Magnus, so if I try to piece together a defense of why he's acting that way, I
Mhm.
know he was really ticked off that his dad came in and assumed all the kids were using drugs and that they weren't to be trusted and they were just being crazy. So
Mhm.
maybe Magnus is afraid that if he kind of gives in to Marta, that would give credence to, like, Ulrich's thoughts somehow that, like, "Oh, my sister is acting crazy, and I don't like that, so I'm gonna just keep that at bay."
Mm, I don't know. Magnus is the same guy last episode that was like, "I know what I saw. I saw the crazy stuff." So he's
Yeah.
he knows that Martha's seen some crazy stuff too.
Mhm.
I kinda think that, I mean, that's a good guess because he probably still feels some heat from the dad thing.
Mhm.
But he probably spent all night because he said mom was up all night crying. So he was probably, like, consoling her, and she was giving Magnus the 3rd degree, probably. So he's like maybe he's mad about that, like a sibling. I mean, obviously they're siblings. So maybe it's like, mom I had to do this for mom and now you need to straighten up and she's not
Mhm.
going to straighten up. I don't know, Magnus. Spend 5 minutes with her. Come
Yeah.
on. Everything's gray too. You said her shirt was gray.
Yeah.
Magnus's clothes are gray. The kitchen paint's gray. The curtains are gray. The pillow is gray, and the clouds outside are gray. Everything is gray in this scene, with the exception of the wood that you see. Everything else is gray.
Mhm. Yeah. Or maybe it's that the fact that she says Bartosz was right, and Bartosz was kind of,
Oh,
like, speaking some weird he seemed like to be doing, like, conspiracy theories and "Oh, you know what Nostradamus said," and all that, and Magnus is like,
right.
"What?"
Okay, sure, sure.
Yeah. Who knows? Magnus, we don't understand you fully.
He's a complex man.
But, Marta also pulls the St. Christopher pendant out of her pocket, though, that
Right.
she had.
Yes.
Then in 2053 in World 2, the Marta who shot Jonas also holds the pendant. Stranger Marta talks to her. She tells her that Jonas had to die. The two of them are wrong in his world and in hers. As we pull
Mm,
back, we see the Errant Lux lair covered in sand as if the house has been abandoned. Stranger Marta assures her the feelings will pass. Everything will run its course, just as fate determined for both worlds.
I guess my only comment there is like stranger Marta is kind of right. They are wrong in both worlds in a way. I mean, more to come later, but I mean, she kind of
Mhm.
has almost a point there.
Yeah, this part kind of aggravated me though. I'm aggravated
Oh,
a lot today, but
okay.
um This same stranger Marta, though, is the one who was in the bunker that had all the chalkboard, all the
Mhm.
chalk writing on it. And she
Right.
was the one that told Jonas to go after Marta because in this world, the two of you can be together. So she's talking out of both sides of her mouth. She's telling Jonas one thing so that he'll go after Marta and, continue the loop and have, you know,
Dang.
have,
Good
do what she
call.
needs to do. And then in this, once they got Alt Marta to do this violent deed, then they say,
Mhm.
"Oh, you guys are both wrong in both worlds."
I can't argue with that. That's yeah. I mean, I don't even have a rebuttal for you. I went back and reread your paragraph just now as you were saying that, and you're absolutely right. What are you doing, Stranger Marta and Stranger Jonas? They're made for each other, I tell you.
Yeah. But I will say if nothing else, this had some cool imagery. You've got the two paintings that have been damaged
Oh
by, I
yeah.
guess, the apocalypse, and are all you can see are the heads now and the shoulders, and then all the
Yes.
sand. It's very Dune again, continuing that Dune imagery.
Yeah, yeah.
So then we warp back to World 1. Alt Marta frantically tries to break free from her cage. There's not even room for her to sit fully upright inside. She bangs on the bars when she sees Adam. She demands to know why she's locked up. This is not what they agreed. Adam promised her she could help change things so the apocalypse didn't happen, but he lied to her just like her older self.
I wrote down here, I don't know if I'm right or not, but I wrote down here that he didn't lie. He just like altered the truth slightly. You know what I mean?
Well, we actually see at the end of this episode, I believe, at the end of this episode, we actually
Mhm.
see where he promises by proxy.
Well, he's saying that the basic promise is that she can help change things,
Hmm.
and that's true in a roundabout way.
And that she can find the origin.
Um,
Because
hmm.
this happens
Oh, well,
after.
he believes that to be correct. So I don't think he's lying to her. He believes that to be correct. I don't know. I'm not going to stand
Yeah.
up. I'm not going to stick up for Adam. I don't what am I
Yeah,
doing?
please don't.
Okay, I'm done.
Adam pulls out the golden ball that I guess he
Cool.
took from Alt Marta,
Mhm.
the device that they use in World 2, and holds it gently. Old Tannhaus believed he was creating paradise, a world beyond this one, but he now realizes what paradise really is: eternal darkness and annihilation. The apocalypse must happen in both worlds for that type of paradise to happen. And he walks out. Marta uses all her strength and muster to call out his real name, Jonas. It's a shock to hear Adam called by his proper name. Only Marta, the woman he loves, is brave enough to do so.
Yeah, I didn't catch that at the time. I just, I kind of went with her. Like, yeah, she's calling his name. I didn't even think anything of it until you're right. It's like calling, it's like if you're in a fight with Batman and you're like, Bruce, stop. you know? Like he would be like, "Whoa, okay." Or maybe he would be. You're trying to like appease to his humanity, the person inside
Right.
the person.
Yeah. And she does that a couple times during this episode, but this is the first one here. And I really liked that because I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say about it either, but it's cool
I,
that she
I,
did
won-
that.
I wonder if I would have even picked up on that if you hadn't pointed it out because I didn't really think the first time I watched it through a while back. That didn't really jump out at me.
Hmm.
So, this is a Lindsay original.
Yeah. Okay, so we warp to World 2. 6 hours until the apocalypse. It's not the leisurely warping transition we usually see. It's abrupt and sudden. At the Tiedemann house, Alexander talks on the phone to Jurgen Obendorf. He demands to know where the barrels are. He reminds Jurgen who is in control. Bartosz too enters the kitchen, asking Alexander if he's okay. Alexander needs to go to the office, but first he wants to tell Bartosz something.
Right.
He shares that he's being blackmailed by someone about something he did a long time ago. He shows Bartosz the newspaper story about an unsolved murder in Marburg. Side note, the other headline in the paper says fire in warehouse, over 100 emergency services on site.
Hmm. But
But yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, you got the translation to this article. I didn't know this. This is again like gold information you're giving us. So yes, let's eagerly listen to what this what
Yeah.
this article said because nobody knows. I mean, how did you translate it? By the way, how did you find this?
I just use a Google translator. Um
Okay,
I
cool. I
I
mean,
I took a I pa It was funny cuz I actually found another person. I couldn't get all the words because some of them I paused the screen
hmm
while I was watching it, and then I opened up a translator, German to English, and I just typed in the words that were in the paper. That's all I did. But it was
good
funny
job.
because like there was a user on Reddit that took a screenshot and was just wanting the German people to translate it. And I'm like, lazy,
That
lazy.
is lazy, man. Come on, Lindsay's got you
Okay.
here.
So I have the the translation for the article, and then we have this is where the Facebook feedback comes into. So here's what I could roughly translate from the article. Many residents of the South still remember with horror the events of the fall of 1986. A fatal shot was fired during an attack on the locksmith's workshop in Haspelstraub, near the old Jaeger barracks. After the workshop was closed, two masked men decided to clear out the company safe after a large cash payment was made that same day. However, their night activity was observed by a resident of Liebigstraub, who immediately alerted the locksmith's clerk by telephone. And that's all I could read. There was more to the story, but it was covered up by the red bar, the Netflix bar, and the pause symbol. Um, Okay, so the article flashes on screen for only a few seconds. We aren't truly meant to read it for any answers, but I found it interesting that Alexander's crime may have involved a locksmith's workshop. I kind of
hmm
wish it was. I was like hoping that in maybe locksmith and clock shop were like somehow connected
Exactly.
because I was like that would have
Yeah.
been awesome. But with a locksmith, I was like, oh, keys. There was the keys to the power plant. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
that's good. That's good.
Also, there were two masked men. Who might the other one be? Clausen's brother? Is this a
hmm
Don Draper situation where the man we know as Alexander,
Ah,
actually Boris Niewald, stole his partner's identity? The world will never know.
that's an excellent get. I would. Wow. Okay. Where do we go with this? Because this is good stuff. I mean, it almost like exonerates Alexander. It doesn't exonerate him. He did do a crime. He did end up killing somebody, but it looks like he wasn't like a murderer. It wasn't like he was plotting revenge or like a hitman or nothing crazy like that. They were just trying to get some bucks, and
Mhm.
they got caught and they reacted violently, which is not great, but it's different from a an intended violent crime. I think that if the other guy's name, like it was Boris Niewald and Alexander Tiedemann, that would be a really bad alias. The other guy that did the crime with you. So I'm gonna guess that the other guy in the crime was Clausen's brother, just because they were tight. And maybe
Mhm.
Clausen's brother got killed in the shootout or whatever happened there.
Let me read the feedback we got on the Facebook group now because I thought
Oh
it was
yeah, yeah.
interesting. We have a German member in the Facebook group named Holger Forsterling. And he says, even after watching the show twice, I still enjoy your recaps as they always mention details that I missed. The newspaper article regarding the double murders in Marburg is very intriguing for someone that grew up in that town. Yes, it's a real place. Marburg is a real place. Some details in the description make it clear that the writer of the show either grew up in Marburg or time traveled back 33 years for the period field research, because the Jaeger barracks were repurposed sometime in the 1990s and are no longer known under that name. Kind of like the Raider candy bars. They are a thing of the past and not the present.
Heck yeah, that he's like recognizing these names and like it's got the proximity down. Holger, can you please go take some pictures of the school for us?
One day we'll take that trip to Germany and we'll like
Yeah,
stand in the positions. Yeah.
somebody on Reddit just it was I can't remember if it was Reddit or Facebook just recently went there and posted pictures of the area where the cave is, the school, the Sick Mundus church, and the graveyard.
Hmm.
So I don't know, just absolutely neat stuff that I would love to stand in those places too.
Okay, so back to our scene. Alexander tells Bartosz that some decisions can never be undone. His name isn't Alexander, it's Boris Niewald. The murder was an accident. Bartosz wonders if Fergina knew. Alexander shakes his head no. He says, "Your mother is the best thing that ever happened to me. She saved me from all of that. And I never even told her the truth." He tries to
Hmm.
apologize to Bartosz, but Bartosz steps away, repulsed by this revelation. He isn't sure what to think.
How about you? What do you think, Lindsay? I'll let you go first this time.
um, well, one thing that strikes me is this, again, with this world, I feel like I don't know exactly what it signifies, but this Alexander seems to be, or we're getting an opportunity to see scenes play out where people were like hiding things and they're trying to be more transparent. Maybe it's because this is
Yeah.
the world with therapy, but
Yeah, I think so.
like Alexander's actually trying to do the right thing here. Like he wants to come clean to Bartosz. Something about this blackmail situation has gotten to him. Or maybe it's just
Mhm.
that his wife died and he's become a changed man since that and just realizing how grateful he is. But he's trying to sort of come clean
Mhm.
and wants to, yeah, let's just open up a little bit to his son. And
Mhm.
Bartosz doesn't take it well.
Mm,
You can't really blame him. I mean, he doesn't take it,
yeah.
he doesn't like yell or like throw
Right.
things away, or throw things in the room, or like, punch a wall or anything like Magnus did.
Magus would do that.
Yeah. But yeah, he finds out that, hey, my dad killed somebody and he's been hiding out in town. So
I
yeah.
I think he takes it remarkably well. He removes himself from the situation, which is the best thing you can do when you get an overload of information. You don't know what to do with it. Um, so I think he made the right move by just backing off and getting out of there because he just
Mhm.
was just handed a lot of info. Um, I think Bartosh is like a nicer guy in this world too. It seems he's. I haven't seen him fighting with Jonas in the rain yet. Not this Bartosh, just the other one. Um, and Alexander is like yeah, like you said. At first, I was like, he's talking crappy to Obendorf, so it's
Mhm.
like typical rich guy power move stuff. But then he moves on to give this information to his son, and I think the real reason he did it is because he's being blackmailed, and because like the only person he really cares what they think about him is his son. Now that
Mhm.
Regina's gone, so he knows that um And towards the end of this episode too, it looks like Alexander's motives are for um not going through with the Hannah thing and letting Hannah go ahead and expose him.
Mhm.
So he's just kind of letting the only person that he really cares about know about it so that like he can find out from him in his own way instead of having to find out in the paper like everybody else will.
Yeah, what
Because
do they
Boris thinks Yeah, I was going to say Boris thinks tomorrow that this is going to come out
Yeah,
against
what do
him.
they call that? Getting your affairs in order, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Charlotte rings the doorbell at the Nielsen house.
What a fun scene.
Hannah answers the door. Charlotte asks to speak to Ulrich, but Hannah says that he's in the shower. Charlotte decides to wait. Her news is important. Hannah makes nice and asks how Charlotte's doing, but her posture and demeanor change in a heartbeat. You listen to me. Ulrich belongs to me, and that's not going to change. Just
I'm just
then,
giggling along. I'm sorry.
yeah. I'll read one more paragraph and then stop before we continue. Just then, Ulrich comes in looking flustered to see Charlotte. Hannah flips back to being sweet and suggests that Charlotte drop by again with Peter so they can all hang out together. And she gives Charlotte a hug and Ulrich a kiss, a true snake in the grass.
She is acting so crazy. Her eyes are crazy. Like I think they like accented her eyes. Like who was crazier in this situation? Katerina or Hannah? Because remember, Katerina was kind of weirded out in this situation too when Hannah pulled this with Katerina. Like remember when Hannah stopped by with the casserole?
Yeah, but I see. I don't think Katerina really acted crazy. She was just, she was upset that her
Hmm.
child had gone missing.
That's the
You
correct
know.
answer. Hannah's crazier.
Okay, I thought you were saying that somehow Katerina was crazy in her scene. I was like, I don't think she was.
Well, she kind of was weird the way she like hugged and sniffed. I think that's when she gave her the sniff, was at that moment. But as you're going to read on, like Charlotte has a completely legitimate reason to be stopping by. And
Mhm.
like they're work partners. So like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, there's something going on. We know this, Hannah. But Charlotte actually is not just coming there just to mess with Ulrich. She's got a thing happening.
Yeah. I mean, once Charlotte gets a clue, she's like a hound dog. She has to keep on it. So
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. But yeah, it was crazy that she's like, "Oh, let's all hang out." And then she's like tongue kissing Ulrich in front of Charlotte. It's just a little weird.
I think she knows the message she's sending to Charlotte darn well.
Yeah, I think pregnant Hannah is definitely as impossible as it seems. She's even crazier than
Oh, she's
unpregnant.
pregnant in this scene. Okay, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Um so as soon as Hannah exits, Ulrich turns hard and tells Charlotte never to come back here again, just like he did with Hannah in World One.
Right.
Charlotte just coolly reports that his phone was off and goes into her reveal. So I did like how he was like, "Never come here again and again," and she's just like, "So anyway, I found these pennies."
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah,
It's okay to be here, Ulrich.
yeah. The examination of the two pennies is complete. She pulls out a file folder and shows him an up close photo of the pennies. A pfennig coin blown to 100 times. Um, an identical groove sits at the top of the E in each. The two pennies are one. I'm saying pennies, but they're pfennigs. Or,
Yes.
yeah, two pennies are one and the same, but Charlotte knows that Helge has had his penny since she's known him. Because she keeps track of all the coins he has in his pocket. Yeah, he's probably got on the red string. He
Yeah, yeah.
concludes the penny traveled through time. It's quite a jump. You didn't have to go that far, Charlotte, but that's what she came up with. She says the penny traveled through time. Ulrich grabs the pennies and rushes off on some mission.
Well, I think we know what that mission is later, but yeah, they're shortcutting us here. And in World 2, the only way they couldn't shortcut us the way they are now is if they did another season. And it would
Mm,
just be exactly like season 1 basically. We'd see all the same stuff. So that's why we're not getting like a lot of detail on some of these plots because we don't really need it. We already saw it in World 1 and we already know everything. And now they're slowly getting to realize it too, except it seems like it's happening faster, I guess. These are definitely the same pennies, and
mm.
they definitely been bootstrapped, Lindsay. I hope you know this.
Well, I think the people, like you said, the people in this world are 10% um hotter, but I also
Mhm.
think they seem to be 10% smarter and 10%, at least
Mhm.
10% more honest. Like they're figuring
I
out
agree.
things a lot easier. Like it took Ulrich a long time to get a hold of the
Mhm.
time travel thing, and even Charlotte. So I think they see part of it is they are trying to fast forward, but they could also just be like smarter people, more intuitive.
I guess that's right.
um,
This is what
uh,
Ulrich wanted to hear because Ulrich's been thinking about this. So this is
yeah.
kind of what he wanted to hear.
Yeah, I do think it's kinda rude, though, that Ulrich just grabbed the pennies and left. It's like, "Hey, that's the evidence I'm working on."
That's
But
right. I didn't think about that.
but that is Ulrich. Ulrich's gonna Ulrich. Okay.
Yep, that's right.
At the Conwald house, Marta too sits on her bed, fresh from the shower. We can see the St. Christopher pendant around her neck. She's panting hard and grabs a pair of shears. She chops off her hair with little care for the results.
Yep, slowly becoming Alt Martha.
Yep. I will say I actually had this haircut for a while, Steve. I actually
Oh,
took
yeah?
photos of Alt Marta to the hair salon and I said, "Give me this haircut."
Really? Did it work out?
I mean, it worked out the first day, but with I realized I do have you do have to style your hair to look as
Mhm.
cool as Alt Marta, so the fact that she's, like, running around the
Right.
apocalypse with this cool haircut is really I, for one, know that it's not honest at all that your, hair would look this cool because I have
Yeah.
strange little kinks in my hair, so, you really have to smooth it down, but I do have the choppy still, like, the choppy kinda ends you can kinda see,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, I just thought this haircut was the stuff, and the bangs, she
No,
looks
you're
cool.
right.
Yeah.
She looks very cool, but sometimes that goes awry. I've done that before too, where I've gone to the barber shop picture and said, "Give me this haircut." It doesn't always work, and if it does work, like you said, like, 2 days later, it's like, "Oh, no, I gotta put gel in my hair every day to achieve this look," and I don't like that,
Yeah.
so sometimes it doesn't work out.
That's like when Daniel went into the hair salon and said, "Make me look like the captain in 1899," and they
Right,
gave him the
didn't work.
generic trench coat. Yeah.
And then he stopped at Old Navy and got in a generic jacket. It didn't work out for him.
They said he's like he tried to get the beard, grow the beard, and it didn't work. Yeah. All right. So room, in the room she's in, Katerina too wakes up from a snooze to find Marta, now looking a lot like old Marta. She's got the
Oh.
choppy bob haircut and is wearing all black clothes and a messenger bag around her shoulder. Katerina notices her hair and her daughter's wet eyes. Marta asks if she believes in fate. After a few moments, Katerina decides no. She believes they make their own fate. Everyone must choose. She tells her daughter that Marta can talk to her if she wants. And it now dawns on me that Katerina is actually napping in Mikkel's room. The room is adorned with a soccer ball, robots, rocket ships, and things a science loving kid would enjoy. Katerina seems very attached to her kids, and maybe this is her way of staying close to them when they are away from her because, part of the time they live with Ulrich.
Oh, they hate going to Ulrich's house. I bet she
Hmm.
loves that fact.
Yeah.
I was wondering if maybe she was in Mikkel's room because the other Katerina is in Mikkel's room because she misses Mikkel, and then this Katarina is just kind of mirroring that Katarina without even realizing it.
Hmm.
That's kind of where my head went, but this is just as good of a theory too. Just that she
Yeah.
loves her kids and she shows that she's a great mom. And yeah, Aunt Martha looks just like Aunt Martha with the exception of one scar across her face. Everything else looks exactly like Aunt Martha, looking cool as hell.
Mhm. Well, the only reason I pointed out the room is because at first I was like, "Oh, Katarina's napping in her bedroom, or she's in the living room taking a nap," because my mom takes naps in the living room a lot. When then I was like, this time when I was watching more closely, I'm like, "Wait a second. Oh, this is actually the room where in World 1, Michael hung himself." Like, you can tell
Hmm.
by the windows that it's actually that room, and in this world, that's Mikkel's bedroom. Um, so it just visually struck me as like, "Oh, wow, I know where she is," and then I was like, "Well, why is she taking a nap in his room?" But yeah, I like your theory too, that it's like, we're just mindless robots walking around. We have to match our people, yeah. So,
Oh, but also, of course,
yeah,
this mirrors. Oh, I'm sorry, this doesn't mirror anything yet. If you go on the next paragraph, I'll tell you what it mirrors. I
okay.
went ahead of myself there.
Okay, she takes March's hand and says, this is Katerina, takes March's hand and says, "Your father and I, a lot of things may be different now, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad." This is a touching scene between mother and daughter. In World 1, Katerina and Marta fought towards the end. It's nice to see them coming together in this world. She tells Katerina she needs to take care of something.
Yeah, what I was thinking they're mirroring was when Jonas was staring at Hannah
Mm,
when Hannah was sleeping, and when she woke up, asked the exact same question of his mom.
mhm,
So this is like a kid mom moment that gets mirrored between the two houses.
mhm. Yeah, I think he asks, Hannah stuff like, "What was dad like when you guys met?" and stuff like that.
Well, that was at the kitchen table. When he
Well,
woke up
yeah.
and he was staring at her, he was like, "You believe in fate." And Hannah gave the exact same answer that Katerina does here.
Oh, I didn't remember that he asked her, "Do you believe in fate?"
Yeah, because it was such we talked about how such it was such a heavy, unexpected question to like wake up to so abruptly,
Interesting.
especially the way Jonas asks it.
Okay. We warp back to World 1. There's a photo of Jonas on the wall. Claudia holds the plans to the Winden nuclear power plant and a note to
Mhm.
follow the signal. We see the smokestacks of the power plant gone. Inside the reactor room, Claudia in a hazmat suit walks toward a small glowing ball. Claudia reaches out her hands as if to touch it. She's got the gloves on, but still. A voice commands her to stop. It's a young Jonas looking gray and unwell. This is the Jonas we saw at the beginning of this episode who did not go to March's world. He
Mhm.
survived somehow and has been living in this ruin.
Yeah, wild stuff. I'm glad he got her to stop because that was a really dumb idea, Claudia, to do that.
What would have happened if she touched it? What would have happened, do you think?
I don't know. I was thinking a couple things could happen. I mean, she could just get like shocked or electrocuted, possible death, or she could like unexpectedly like warp into it the same way that like when you touch fingers outside of
Mm,
the gateway, you get kind of sucked in somehow. So I wonder if that might have happened if she would have gotten sucked in, but to some unknown future. But good thing Jonas is here to stop that from happening.
mhm,
Um, I wanted to say that it was interesting that Claudia, more mirrors, old Claudia gave Claudia this map to follow the signal in order to find the thing. And then
mhm,
Stranger Jonas gave Jonas this map saying, follow the signal. in
Mhm.
order to find the Sic Mundus door. So I thought that was very neat between Claudia and Adam there. Claudia and Jonas there, excuse me.
Right. Is it the same one? Is it the same map?
Oh no,
No, because that was
because
for the caves. That was for the
right.
caves, and this is, yeah, for the
But they
power
both
plant.
said follow the signal and they're both using
Right.
in that clickygram. That's what you call it, right? Clickygram.
Um,
Oh, but
Anything
that's cool.
else?
The thing's still there though, right? Oh, you're getting ready to go into that. The thing,
Yeah,
like
they
it doesn't look like a thing, but it's like its core is like still there.
yeah, they talk about later what it is, but and even when we talk about it, I'm like, I guess that would if we knew more, we would that would answer that question. What would happen if you touched it? Because there is, there's like the dark matter, there's the God particle, there's the orb, there's the black blob. These are all the terms I use. So sometimes I'm like, I'm not sure if I actually understand the difference sometime, but so we warp back to World 2. Marta is writing the letter to Jonas, the letter that young Noah will one day take to the stranger. Standing on either side of her are stranger Marta and Eva. This is Alt Marta, the one that has a huge gash in her left cheek. She says, I killed him. Why is he still alive in his world? And Eva draws an infinity symbol in the dust and mentions the switch point at the junction in the loop of time. The moment that allows things to go in one direction or the other. You bring him to our world or you don't. A line that meets itself again in a loop, two possible paths along the outer edge of the line or along the inner edge of the line. And yet it's the same line. Two overlapping
Hmm.
realities. On one of these paths, he dies. On the other, he doesn't. Both possibilities recur in the loop again and again. One triggers the other. Quantum entanglement.
Yeah, that's basically our answer. That kind of made sense to me in a real simple way. I mean, I
Mm.
can't go into like great detail about it, but I mean, both possibilities have to happen in order for these two worlds to exist, in order for a story to continue. So that's, I don't know. It's neat the way that Eva drew that infinity symbol and kind of explained that to us because it's like, I don't know, shows usually don't explain this kind of stuff to us in this kind of way. So it's cool when it does.
Yeah, it's great that we're getting an answer for the question I asked right at the beginning of the recap.
Yep.
And I appreciate how we see this very quick exchange between Claudia and Jonas. Because, like, it was last episode where they said, Jonas is dead, or Claudia herself said Jonas is dead. And then Alt Claudia
Hmm.
says, no, he's very much alive. And eventually he will want to annihilate everything. And so then they show Claudia meeting Jonas, and then the next thing we see is Eva explaining why this other Jonas exists, which
Oh,
is
right.
great.
Yeah, this is where the split screen happens, right?
Yes.
Okay,
So,
yeah, I like this a lot.
yeah, as she speaks, we see a split screen. Marta is dead. Jonas hovers over her. In one version, Alt Marta shows up and rescues Jonas. In the other, she doesn't. Adam has been trying to sever this entanglement for 33 years so that what is growing inside of her will never come to be. But this will never be because Jonas is controlled by them.
Hmm.
Stranger Marta snugly, oh, I meant smugly. She smugly folds the letter into the envelope. So the cat is out of the bag. Marta is pregnant with Jonas's child, and Adam wants to erase the child.
Now, we already knew that, right? Or did we know that because we saw this? Because they made like big insinuations about that last episode. They kept gesturing towards her belly and stuff, and like, right?
I don't know. I don't think we knew surely about the baby like until this episode.
We talked about it like we were sure. So I hope we didn't like. get too ahead of ourselves. But yeah, it seems apparent
Well,
here.
we talked about the origin. There was a lot of talk about the
Yeah.
origin. Well, that might have actually been 2 episodes ago. I don't know,
It
Steve.
was. You're right.
I don't know.
You're supposed to know.
Um, I know. I know that's what I'm paid for. Wait, I'm not paid. Okay. So,
Well, you didn't get the check? I mean, checks every week.
so do you
But
have
this is
any
where we
other thoughts about this, Steve?
yeah,
Okay.
stranger Marta snugly and smugly folding the letter into the envelope. That is where we see her, like, the first time with a letter, and
Mhm.
then we see, like, the postal service delivering the letter later, right?
We see the postal service. Yeah, the postal service,
Okay,
delivering the letter later, yes.
okay. I'm on board.
But yeah, but this is when the letter is actually written, at this moment.
Yeah, all my notes that I wrote for this whole because I did write a lot of notes for this, but
Mhm.
it it's we don't need to discuss them because it's all stuff that gets answered later, and it's
Yeah.
all just a bunch of ahas. So it's
Yeah.
just a lot. I mean, if your brain wasn't going on fire during this part, and during this whole episode, then watch it again.
Yeah. But this helps it just helps to clarify so much.
It
Just yeah.
does.
That we have I did enjoy the fact that we've had the infinity symbol since the beginning of the show, right?
Sure.
Meaning time travel and, like, eternity. Everybody knows that as an infinity symbol.
hmm
Um, and here it's like the symbol is repurposed to expand,
Mm.
the symbol expands to create this idea of multiple worlds existing at the same time. Using that same exact symbol she makes with her finger and says there's this switch point, and at the
Hmm.
switch point it's possible for you to do two things.
Right.
Yeah.
So infinity symbol, infinity thine self.
Oh my gosh. What's happening? Okay. But yeah, very cool visuals though. Yes, we can say that.
Absolutely.
So we warp back to World 1. Claudia asks about the origin of this floating orb. Jonas explains it's a remnant from the apocalyptic explosion. The machinery holding it together is a shadow of what it will become. The Siegmundus passage no longer exists, but this orb offers a chance that Jonas can save Marta and Mikkel. This Jonas still believes change is possible. He demands to
Hmm.
know how she found him, and this is when we remember that Claudia found Jonas because her alternative self told her she needs to keep Jonas busy until alt Claudia can figure out how to untie the knot.
Right. Yeah, I'd kind of forgotten about that part until you reminded me here. So that the actions kind of made sense without it, but this kind of helps clarify it a lot more. That this is like a mission to fill in the time, kind of like Noah has a similar mission to
Mhm.
fill some time in to help things happen.
Yeah. They need Jonas to fill out some worksheets to fill up some time.
Yep, yep, yep. And he won't
When
get paid
if
for it.
you're I was one of the students that I got things done and I had to sit there and fill out boring, dull worksheets.
Yep.
Yeah. Claudia quickly forms a lie. She starts to say something about the device, but when Jonas asks to see it, she stops talking. She shows him the device and reports it's no longer working. She tries to brightside him. We changed the variables last time, so maybe this time it will work better. Jonas protests that he doesn't have time to wait 33 years. He also has no desire to lie to his younger self as his older self did to him.
Right now he doesn't. Yeah. That's how he feels now. He'll change his mind later.
Yeah. It's very painful to see this young Jonas clinging desperately to the shreds of hope and integrity he has left, especially knowing that Jonas will become Adam.
Mhm.
Jonas fights against that fatalistic view. He then gets even more suspicious. All the time he worked with older Claudia, she never told him about what would happen to Marta. Why should he trust her now? Then Claudia says, "The matter in the nuclear power plant. I know what it is. I can help you save Marta." So once again, Jonas falls in line, drawn by the siren song of Marta's name being used in vain.
I guess this is where last week I was talking about the person who was talking trash about Claudia. This is probably what he was talking about. Um, her kind of leading Jonas astray here and wasting his time for 33 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's got a purpose, man. It's got a purpose. I mean, of course he's got to wait 33 years. He's got to get old. So get to it, Jonas. It's really
Yeah.
neat how he has all this stuff here too, and he knows how to build it because he's already seen it before. It's again like a reverse engineer situation, like Tannhauser's book. He doesn't never actually wrote the book. It
Mm-hmm.
just happened, and then he just had to rewrite the book in order to make time travel happen. So,
Yeah. Well, I don't think he really knows how to build it. All he did was he saw the finished product. So he's like, well, somehow something happens to
mhm,
make to help me know, or I meet somebody, or something happens to make it happen. So he just has this faith. It's a weird, it's an odd, twisted faith that it's going to happen because he's seen it.
yeah. And Claudia's seen some stuff. She knows she's the right person because this was her power plant. So she knows about the cesium. She's seen the reports and stuff. So she's the perfect
Hmm.
person to show up here and help him out. And
Yeah.
then the time machine itself, time machine being the suitcase time machine.
Hmm.
Like we finally see like that's the old beat up version, right? Can she use that again or is that indeed the busted one?
Oh well, it's out of fuel.
Right. Okay. Okay. Because I remember he took a
Yeah.
broken one back to Tan House, and I wasn't sure if this was that one or not. But again, that happens 33 years down the road.
Yeah, I think he takes them, if I remember correctly, he takes them the broken one, and using the broken one, that's how he creates the brand new one that works.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But is this the first time Jonas has seen the time machine, though? Young Jonas? Or is he. No, he's seen it
Well,
before,
no,
right?
he got it. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
got
used
it.
it.
He got it from himself. He got it from Stranger
That's right.
Giannis, delivered, special
Well,
delivery.
we're always looking for the origins. I wasn't sure if this was like the origin, like the first time Jonas has laid eyes on it. It's not. So that was just a fanciful thought.
Yeah, actually, if you want a real deep rabbit hole about the suitcase time machine, you can go to the YouTube page that's called, it's either Dark in 1899 or 1899 and Dark, and
Mhm.
they have all these chronologies that I find
Oh, yeah.
fascinating. A lot of them are character chronologies, but they also have a chronology for the suitcase time machine, and
Mhm.
the chronology of the suitcase time machine may actually be the most convoluted of
Mhm.
any human or object in the whole show. Um,
You're right. I think I've watched it before too.
yeah, because I was actually had I was looking, the reason I found it is 'cause I was looking for the chronology of the pocket watch because I was trying to fill
Right.
in. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I just remembered that in the last episode we saw Elizabeth, the Elizabeth that was with um anyway, she's looking at the pocket watch, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Noah gave Elizabeth the pocket watch in, like, season 1. She gave it to
Mhm.
Charlotte, then Charlotte had it and ended up, being given to Elizabeth before she young Elizabeth before she went to the bunker." So I was like, it's all like, the chronology of the pocket watch is pretty interesting too, but,
That's something I
but yeah,
wouldn't
with
mind that's something I wouldn't mind doing in the future is like doing just podcast podcasting about that so we can get it straight in our own head. I wouldn't mind tackling that, but We can't do it within an episode because
Mm-mm.
then it would be a 4-hour episode probably.
Okay, so back in World 2, it's 3 hours until the apocalypse. Marta 2, now dressed as Alt Marta, ends up at the house of Bartosz. She calls his name, a hint of desperation in her voice. He's surprised to see her, but allows her in. She tells him that 33 years ago, there was an accident at the power plant. A substance formed, and his father helped to keep this secret hidden. The substance in the cave triggers the apocalypse. She wants Bartosz to help her talk to Alexander. Unlike Magnus, Bartosz doesn't call her crazy. He's just found out his dad has been keeping secrets too.
That's right. Yeah. He's getting hit with all kinds of stuff today. It's a big day for Bartosz. I wrote down here that Bartosz looks cool. He doesn't have a mullet. He just has like kind of shaggy hair. He looks cool. Come on. He's a cool guy.
Like younger Bartosz?
This Bartosz.
Bartosz 2, the young
Yeah,
Bartosz.
the one we're talking about right now in this scene.
No.
He doesn't have a mullet. He's just got that long hair. His hair is like he's got long bangs too. It's wavy. He looks cool. And I'm going to say this right now because this is a phrase that people say on podcast. Have you heard the phrase "histy vindy"? Do you know this
No.
phrase?
No.
Histy Vindi Bartosz. Okay. History has vindicated Bartosz finally because Histy Vindi is like what happens when you have a hot take or a wrong take, and history vindicates you later on. So I'm glad that people are coming to Bartosz for help. And look, I picked the right guy for my team, Dylan. Remember, y'all were making fun of my team. I wanted Jonas and Bartosz to be a team together. I mean, come on, this Bartosz would be a handy guy on your team. He's helpful. He's not judgmental. He's a good guy. He's going to help you out.
I like Bartosz. I do not like this haircut. I just pulled up a picture, Steve, of the
Okay.
haircut just so I could clarify, just to see if I could rethink my opinion, and no, I don't. So I
Are
still
there any
think this is a
pictures of
terrible haircut.
when they were doing the bike scene and they were riding the bike and they ran into older um Magnus and Francisca? That is the scene that I noticed his hair was like super cool looking because it was all like disheveled from the bike ride and stuff. Anyway, everybody knows that
Yeah,
Bartosz is cool. Come on.
I like that scene. But it was a terrible haircut. Okay. So, um at the Winden police station, Ulrich
Right.
visits the morgue, where they are keeping the body of the boy found in the bunker. The time of death was just before the body was found. We get our forensic specialist. Steve,
Yes.
remember how much you liked the forensic specialist?
Of course. Of
Um,
course.
she pulls back the cloth, showing Ulrich the body with the eyes burned. Ulrich asks if it's possible the body was dead a while and has been preserved. Ulrich leans forward, noticing the scar on Mad's chin. Ulrich then comes to Helge in his prison cell and pulls him up. He grabs Helge firmly by the collar. Helge claimed to have killed the boy in the bunker, but he doesn't mean him. He means Mads. The boy's body just looks like Mads. How can that be? Helge stammers that she said I had to do it.
Mm,
Ulrich demands to know who. Helge continues to send him to the future and fill the gaps.
mhm.
Ulrich then pulls out the pennies. What do they mean? And Helge says he needs to stop him. Ulrich says who, and Helge says you. In this world, Ulrich tries to talk to Helge. Less roughhousing and more talking. And then Ulrich releases Helge without another word. He lets Helge out of prison.
That was a head scratcher to me. We know why at the end, why he let them out of prison, because he wants to follow Helge.
Mhm.
But I was completely confused as to why he let them out, why he let him out, and why he let him out without telling anybody else about it. Um, it's because he's going beyond police stuff here. He's going a little beyond the pale for this. But yeah, this was my lady. I definitely recognized my lady in that scene earlier. And this kind of this is where Ulrich ran off to. He ran off to look at his brother after he got that coin from Charlotte. So, this time travel stuff, he wanted to like see with his own eyes. He wanted to see that scar on the chin, you know. So now he realizes that time travel is real, which for me, now he believes and he knows that Helge is a time traveler too. So he's letting Helge out so he can follow him to go also time travel. So,
Mhm.
yeah, neat. Love it.
But yeah, there's a few things I have questions about with this.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
okay, so Helge mentioned she. She said I
Mhm.
had to do it.
Yeah,
And I
right.
was thinking about what that means. Now, in
Yes.
World 1, Helge is Noah's pawn
Mhm.
and Noah is Adam's pawn. This Helge
Yes.
is in Eva's world, and if we remember, Noah is like working with Eva.
Yes.
So I wondered if she was Eva.
I assumed she was Eva, but yeah, like Helge never worked for Adam. Helge worked for Noah. So
Hmm.
I
As far
think
as
that
we
I
know,
think
he didn't meet Adam, but it's just interesting that that he says she said I had to do it. So it's like, well, who's she?
I think it's significant. I think they did that gender on purpose. Because if they said he made me do it, he meaning Noah, which is actually the
Hmm.
truth that we know, it kind of doesn't like it doesn't lead us to believe that like Eva is in charge of that world. So they have to substitute he for she just for storytelling purposes, I believe, just to put Eva in your mind because there's really no other she it could be besides Eva.
Well, the other thought I have is maybe Claudia, the alt Claudia, because we
Oh,
remember how close he was to
oh,
Claudia, and
yeah.
she's sort of an important person. Okay, well,
Hmm.
leave that alone for a minute. The other thing he
Okay.
says that she um I needed to fill the gaps.
That sounds like a
And
Claudia thing. You're right.
later, the girl from the future in the episode, well, we'll get there later. This is actually in my questions at the end. But later, the girl from the future says the same thing. And who said those words to Helge? So it could be Claudia, but could it be the girl from the future? So, yeah.
Oh, we finally get her name in this episode too, towards the end. Thought that was
I
pretty
don't think it's
rad.
until the end.
It is the
I don't
end, but
think
it's
it, I
this
don't,
episode.
I actually think it's next episode. You'll
I'm
have to edit
positive because
that out.
nope, I'm positive because I wrote it down. I was excited. I was like, they said it. They said it. So,
Well, you just tell me when that happens because I'm pretty sure it's next episode.
okay.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay, so we only have a few episodes left, and then we'll never have to be confused again about how we said everything.
I want to be confused again.
Okay, but yeah, there was this whole to send him to the future and fill the gaps. So the whole phrase is just interesting. Um, and then also Helge says who he needs to stop him, and he says you.
Yeah, that's
So yeah,
wild.
yeah. Okay, so back to Marta and Bartosz. Bartosz muses out loud that this Jonas guy is dead and Marta killed him. Not her, but another Marta. Marta tries to turn the conversation away from Jonas and back to the more important matter. It all has to do with Alexander, and they need to stop him from opening the barrels. Bartosz tries to call Alexander, but his father lets the call go to voicemail. He has more important matters to take care of right now, and Alexander calls Charlotte and asks her to come to the power plant.
I didn't like how Alexander didn't answer the phone for Bartosz. I know that like mirrors another scene from from World One, but he just dropped his bombshell on Bartosz. So
Mm-hmm.
like I just didn't like that. That's that bothered me a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it bothered me a little too, but I think if he had gotten hold of Alexander, maybe the apocalypse wouldn't have happened. They can't
Oh,
let that be the case.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, Bartosz's perspective is whack right now. He's having a I
Mhm,
mean Martha too. I mean, come on. She's having like but Bartosz's mind is getting blown left and right here like in some stuff too. It's like
mhm,
everything was normal for him up until today. So like with Martha, it's been a few days now.
yeah. Well, we're gonna leave Bartosz and Marta alone for just a moment as we switch to the unknown. Steve's buddy, the unknown.
You
The
know it.
unknown watches the pulsing, unstable God particle. The unknown pulls a lever, causing the particle to stabilize and come to a complete and perfect sphere. The younger and older unknown walk towards the sphere and disappear. The middle aged unknown then pulls out his own golden sphere, just like the one Alt Marta has.
They don't use protection. They just walk right in there. Like everybody else has to use like the yellow suits and stuff. Like
That's true.
I thought that was pretty weird. Somebody on Reddit kind of explained it in a way that I didn't understand, so I won't even try, but it's just significant. And I think their reason basically boiled down to because the unknown is born of both worlds and because they're
Hmm.
because they're part of the loop and everything that they have some kind of special immunity.
Yeah,
But I
that
thought
tracks.
it was significant though that they didn't need anything. They just walk right in there and it looks like the old guy and the little guy are going to do the God particle and then our middle-aged guy is going to Martha it up with his little golden snitch. I decided that I kind of like his clothes. I like his outfit that he wears. He's consistent. Um it's like all black except for like a little bit of pop of blue. I decided that I like that. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a certain amount of riz.
You can say that, sure.
Since last episode, we used all that hip speech about mid
That's
and
right.
slaps.
Yeah, the unknown here. Yeah,
Mhm,
he's fire. He's not
mhm.
fire. He's still mid to me, but
Yeah. I love that you he's still I love that you pointed out he wasn't wearing the suits because I think I noticed that at one point, but it sort of left me, and now I'm like, that is cool. Like they somehow have like sort of a superpower or a super protection that nobody else does.
sure,
Um,
they're born of the radiation or they're born of the God particle. I don't know.
mhm. Yeah, and I like that it kind of tracks with like sometimes in I don't know. I think it's a common trope in. I mean, it could be some people might find it an unfortunate trope, but a lot of times the most marginalized characters or the most sort of untouchable or rejected characters have sort of a special
Hmm,
gift that
okay,
other people don't have or abilities. So it's
right.
it's it's
Yeah,
kind of nice that he's immune
yeah,
to
like the Green Mile kind of thing. Yeah,
yeah. So, speaking of Alt Marta, we warp back to World 1. The girl from the future opens Alt Marta's cage. Adam wants to see Alt Marta now. The girl from the future escorts Marta toward her next destination. But first, Alt Marta is ordered to strip out of her 1888 clothing.
yeah.
Alt Marta obeys but asks the girl why she does as Adam commands. The girl says, We, the chosen few, must fill the gaps. So that's where that
Mm-hmm.
phrase, this is the same wording Helge uses earlier, that he must fill the gaps. The yellow hazmat suit on the wall helps identify that we are outside the nuclear core reactor room.
Mm-hmm.
Adam waits for Alt Marta's arrival. He tells older Magnus and Franziska that they know what to do. Just like the unknown, Adam pulls a lever. Franziska grabs Magnus's hand tightly.
They're in love. All right. I like Francisca and Magnus. Um, I thought, okay, the whole stripping down thing, that kind of sucked. Okay. Like
Mm-hmm.
it seems like she's a reluctant jailer in one way. Like there's a lot of those in Game of Thrones, like guys who are jailers, but they don't really want to be. So they kind of act, hesitant. And she
Mm-hmm.
seems like that way too. But then she like makes her strip down her clothes, which is bizarre. But then there's a reason for that. Those are the
Mm-hmm.
same clothes that she's wearing um, later on.
Mm-hmm. No
And
spoilers, Steve. No spoilers.
we did not already see that.
No, that's next episode.
Okay, well, take a look at those clothes and see if you can spot them next episode. Sorry about that. Oh yeah, and she has a scar.
Mm-hmm.
The girl from the future, she's got like the
Right.
same scar across her face that like Eva and Alt Martha has.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. It almost made me think like, is she an Alt Martha somehow? Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't remember how she got that scar on her face. I don't know if we ever know, but it stuck out to me this time around. I don't know if I've ever noticed it before, but I wrote it down this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean this character, the girl from the future, she's an interesting character, and yeah, but we've already seen her in like the beginning of season 2, and we know that underneath her hardened core, she's somewhat of a softie because she ended up,
Hmm.
yeah, she was the one that let Jonas out of jail and
Right,
ended up turning against older Elizabeth, or she didn't turn against her, but she demanded some answers where she had been sort of
right.
going along for the ride. So I do think she's an interesting character that may be more of a victim than we realize. But she's definitely been
Hmm.
indoctrinated into
Oh yeah.
doing as Adam asked her to do. And Marta kind of calls her out on that and says, like, why are you doing what
Hmm.
he's told you to do? Like, why are you his henchman? So
The reluctant jailer. Yep.
yeah. Okay, so we warp from the older Franziska and Magnus holding hands to World 2, where Franziska 2 and Magnus 2 also hold hands.
Oh.
It's 1 hour until the apocalypse. They sit next to the lake where Trant and Yana once held hands, where Jonas and Marta once kissed, where Helene bashed Marta on the head with a rock. Helene Katerina, sorry, I need to correct that, obviously. Leaving the St. Christopher medallion buried in the sand. So it's an important spot.
Yeah.
Franziska asks Magnus what he thinks the birds and the light mean and the boy in the bunker. Magnus sticks with his narrative that Marta is just going crazy and believes that the apocalypse will happen today. Franziska just smiles and says, if we die today, then together. Magnus agrees and they kiss.
They're beautiful. They're great. I mean, they don't have to die though, right?
I mean, they don't have they in the way, like, that's a loaded question. Um
Yes. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. But we also remember that Magnus said, if the apocalypse happens, I have a bunker. My girlfriend has a
Exactly.
bunker.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Oh,
They don't have
I
to die. That's exactly what I meant.
yeah.
They could just walk 15 minutes and be there.
Yeah.
But they don't know the apocalypse is going to happen. They're just being flip right now. They're just goofing. But
Yeah.
even so, like if the threat of the apocalypse was there, that's where they go. But
Mhm.
like I said, they have no idea. They're just here doing
Yeah.
their thing.
I mean, they could have been in the bunker though, like, "Go have sex in the bunker, then you'll be saved." You're like, I mean, that's what they did earlier.
Yep. Win-win. Sex and then you live. It's great.
Okay. Meanwhile, Bartosz taxis Marta on his bicycle. They ride like the wind towards the power plant, hoping to talk sense into Alexander. There's something touching about Bartosz's loyalty to Marta. She is connected to Jonas in a knot, but there's a connection to Bartosz too somehow that is no less tenable in any world.
Did you put Ride Like the Wind because you're referring to Stephen King's It here?
Yes.
Awesome. I picked it up.
That's the first thing I think of when I see this scene.
Is a big Bill on his bike.
Yeah.
It made me think about E.T. Actually, I was thinking about
Mhm.
E.T. on the handlebars. Have you ever done this before? Like ridden on somebody's handlebars like this?
No.
It's hard. It's we got to give them a lot more credit than we give them. Anytime you see like on Stranger Things or this show, whoever is sitting up on the handlebars has to do like a lot of balancing and has to like, put adjust their weight accordingly as well. So you can't just give anybody a ride on your handlebars. They have to be a bike rider too.
Well,
So
I
I
don't
just
think I don't think anybody's sitting on the handlebars. If I remember correctly, Marta is standing on the spokes and
oh, like
Bartosz
on the
is
back.
yeah, and Bartosz is like not sitting on the seat.
Oh,
He's like standing up while he's riding, which is probably equally
okay, okay.
difficult.
No, that's
But
easier. That's much easier. If you stand on the pegs on the back, or if you can like put your feet on those little nuts on the back, where if you don't have the pegs, that is a much easier way. Okay,
yeah.
okay, okay.
Marta
And my
isn't like a little ET in a basket. I mean, she can't fit on the handlebars.
but you can sit on the handle. I just thought in my mind, like when you were reading this, that's what I saw was her on the handlebars. You're right. Okay, we can move on.
It is kind of funny though when you watch this um when you watch watch this scene, um it's one of those things where you're like, whose legs are whose? Because like you see like four
Hmm.
legs and two of them belong to Marta and two of them belong to Bartosz, but it's kind of hard to discern. But it's one of the cooler images of the show, I think, is this image of Bartosz. Uh,
That's where he has his cool hair. Exactly. Thank you.
I still don't like the hair, but it looks cool.
Okay. All right.
All right, so at the power plant, Alexander escorts Charlotte towards the nuclear reactor room. The yellow suits and accents are replaced with ones in red.
Oh yeah, that's right. The red suits instead of the yellow ones. That's a weird
Hmm.
choice. I like the yellow better personally.
Well, the yellow is a little bit more universal, I think, the whole
Yeah.
caution. But
Red's like a fashion statement, I think. I don't know what
yeah,
they're trying to
well,
do with that, but
I don't think it's a fashion statement, but we also have to remember that in World 1, the school is yellow. In World 2, the school is red.
correct.
So
That's right.
that's the colors of those worlds.
I get it. I just like those yellow suits. I don't know.
Yeah. Helge walks towards the cave saying tick tock. Ulrich follows behind just like he did in World 1. He calls Charlotte. Charlotte, it's me. Listen, the stuff with the pennies. I know it sounds crazy, but the same thing happened with the body in the bunker. Have them run a DNA test. I don't know how, but the boy in the bunker is my brother. It's Mads.
Yeah, so here we're kind of cheering Ulrich on. We're like, yay. In the other world, we were not cheering Ulrich on quite so much. We were like, don't kill people. What are you
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah. Okay. So then Bartosz and Marta's bike ride towards the power plant is interrupted when older Magnus and Franziska appear and block their path. So this is their time, Steve. They got to leave. They got to leave the Sigmundus and
For
do
1 minute.
something. Yeah. Marta too asks who they are, and Magnus says she should know. She speaks her brother's name, although this is the Magnus from World 1. They are from the future, but from the other world. Magnus
Mm-hmm.
says, they lied to you, your older selves. They don't want to prevent the apocalypse. They're the ones who are responsible for it happening. But there is a way to change everything. But you have to choose our world and trust him. Jonas.
So they're Team Adam over here. Okay. Team Adam showing up in Team Martha world.
And so this is kind of wild, Steve, and you probably didn't know that, but for our listeners, um, I want to point out that this is what happens right before these actions. This is where they're bringing Alt Marta to 1888.
Right.
So
Yes.
you know how I was saying that Adam, Marta says, "You promised me that there would be a way to change everything." And this is how they're doing it right here. They say
Okay.
this is how they lure her into working with them. This is how they get Alt Marta to work with Adam.
Right.
Yeah,
One
which
more
is kind
step
of
towards
sad.
becoming that Alt Martha. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, and here I will say too, so I'm sort of wrong in what I said earlier too, where I said that Marta's the only one who dared to call him Jonas, because Francisca calls
Oh,
him Jonas here, but she didn't call him Jonas to his face. She said Jonas as a
right.
way to humanize Adam to Marta.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. She knows the right words to say. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So Marta is surprised to hear that Jonas is alive. Francisca says that Jonas is alive in their world and he knows where the origin is. But before that, she must save Jonas from the apocalypse in his world and bring him into her world. Magnus offers Marta the chance to prevent the apocalypse by doing what they need her to do. However, whichever way you slice it, they are inviting her into a future that we have already seen, a
Mm-hmm.
future that will end in heartbreak. There is no redemption in this option. Jonas/Adam won't actually try to stop the apocalypse, but he plans to use the apocalypse for his own aim.
Right. Yep. For that paradise, quote unquote, of darkness.
Hmm. Bartosz tries to get Marta to talk to him, but Marta thinks Bartosz should just come with them.
Right.
Francisca says he doesn't belong with us. He belongs with the others. They will save him. Without giving Marta a further option, they set the Golden Globe, and so once again, Bartosz is left behind. Marta chooses Jonas again. The three figures disappear, and Bartosz is left alone.
Right. We do know we pick up with him later, but at this point, I was like, come on, take him with you. But of course, I mean, Francisca's right that, he has like another mission, but he doesn't know that yet at this point. Big day for Bartosh, though. Big day for the guy.
Yeah. I, I like when you watch this stuff, it seems cool at the time, but I do think later on, when we think about what happened to this point, it's really sad and upsetting. And yeah.
Sure. This is the first time that Martha's seen the globe thing. Is that right? Or has she traveled by that way before? Because I think at this point she's only traveled through
Mm,
with Jonas.
yeah, she traveled with Jonas through the air at Luxor and the cave. So yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's like we're getting like the full origin of Alt Martha here. And it's like she's Martha too, but she's being like led by, and this Alt Martha is like being created by Adam in a way because he's like
Hmm.
pulling a lot of strings here. And pulling her around.
Yeah. So a voice says it's time. Adam has moved each of his pieces into position. It's time that we do the same. We cut to the vision of Marta with a huge gash in her left eye. This is the
Hmm.
Marta who shot Jonas. Eva addresses Marta as well as a whole group of her foot soldiers. She continues, this knot has given us life, and we are its keepers in both worlds. She then moves down the line and starts to give each person orders. To Marta, she says he'll never be able to untie the knot and places her hand on Marta's belly. In all these years, he hasn't understood how everything is really connected.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, that baby does have something to do with it, but yeah, I'll
Yeah.
let you continue.
Okay. Bartosz must save himself to save lives. The
Right.
superhero.
Yep.
Claudia must give herself to be their eyes in Adam's world. The spy. Egon, you must create your past to preserve the family tree, the ancestor.
Okay.
Noah, bring love to make everything new, renewal. And
No.
then to older Noah, every
That was to
darkness.
older Noah.
What?
That wasn't that to older Noah when she said bring
No,
love, renewal?
that was young Noah.
Okay, because I was like, if she's saying older Noah's bringing love and he's like killing kids, that doesn't make any sense to me. But
Well,
the
they're
younger
talking.
Noah, yes.
Yes. I'm not sure if. See, the thing is, I'm not sure if Noah is killing kids in this world.
Well, Mads and all the other kids are missing. We see the posters, so I think so. It's the exact mirror of the other world. And then what's his name? Killian's brother. Yeah, it's still happening.
So it's still happening in some form, but I'm not sure if what Noah is doing because we don't see him do anything. We don't see him do a
That's
thing
right. That's right.
in the story.
Okay.
And there's this, and again, Helge says she made him do it. So yeah, I have questions. I have no answers, but I have
Okay.
questions about that. With But to older Noah, she does say every darkness is followed by light. With every death comes a life. So
Ah,
he's doing
okay.
something.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And with that, Eva flips her own switch, and it's time for them all to travel.
They have suits, okay? This crew has is wearing their suits. And like remember the unknown was not.
Right.
Um Egon was the one that really like confused me here because everybody else I kind of got, but Egon, I was like, what is he doing here? What are you talking
Mm-hmm.
about? He's going to preserve the family tree. Um, and when I got to the end, I had to watch it a couple times, and it kind of still doesn't make sense to me. We'll get
Yeah.
there when we get there, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
interesting that Egon is like part of this crew now. It's like I did not expect that at all.
Yeah. No one expects an Egon.
Or the Spanish Inquisition, yes.
Well, also because in World One, Egon, we saw the last of him. We know his character died, and then we get to see the young Egon that we know, and that his story ends in tragedy. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're really not expecting to see Egon
Mm-mm.
at all, but he serves some sort of purpose here. Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Love, love.
Yeah. Um. Oh
Here we
yeah.
go.
One more
I'm,
thing about. Oh,
oh,
go
oh
ahead.
no, I was gonna say like I thought you're gonna read your next paragraph, and I was getting excited because we're getting to the yeah, to the Silja part. But what were you gonna say?
Well, I didn't. I forgot to write down the source for this, but somebody mentioned when she gives these orders, goes down the line, that
Mm-hmm.
to this younger Noah, bring love to make everything new. That
Mm-hmm.
they were seeing a connection with the story of Persephone. I don't know if you're
Oh
familiar with
yeah?
that, but
Yeah, I
uh,
am.
the god
Um
Hades, and when it's spring, um, Persephone is like representative of spring coming and new birth and new life. So they were
Renewal.
saying like,
Yeah.
yeah, they were saying like Noah, like Elizabeth is Noah's Persephone.
Elizabeth is Noah's. Okay, 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 okay. Yes, yes, absolutely. I
Yes,
thought you were saying.
Elizabeth.
I thought you were saying Elizabeth was Adam's Persephone. I was like, wait, but Noah, I do believe that. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see that.
So I thought that was a neat little Greek mythology thing because, you know, Ariadne and all that. It's all
Of
a lot of Greek
course, of
mythology.
course.
So in World 1, Adam stands mutely as Marta begs for understanding and mercy. Adam brought her here and promised she could change things. Now she sits bound to a pile of debris right under the God particle. She asks
Hmm.
where the others are. He tells her they are all fulfilling their destinies. Francisca and Magnus, Charlotte and Elizabeth, Celia and Agnes. Okay, well, there's the name Celia. However, we don't know that who he's talking about.
We don't. We don't. We don't.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah. So you're right and I'm right. We're both right. Okay. I was like, where's he? Where? When did they say Celia?
Yeah, just when he was naming these names, and I wrote down here that Silja was finally named for the first time, and
Yeah.
that this was not a romantic scene. I wrote that down too, just to remind
Hmm.
everybody this is not romantic.
They will all perpetuate the cycle so that the two of them can be right here, right now.
Not romantic. I'll repeat that again. This is awful what Adam's doing. Like,
Yeah.
I, is this where he starts talking crazy and he's wearing his coat and he's like, or does that come a little bit later?
No, he's wearing the coat. I mean, this must be the same coat, the captain coat. I mean, he
I don't
looks.
like it. It's
I don't
super
like it.
villainy. I mean, he turned into a super villain this episode. I
Yeah,
didn't like
he's a
that.
Bond villain. He's a Bond villain.
Yes. Yep. He is complete with scars and everything. That's typical of a Bond villain too, right?
So Adam tells her that things have come to an end. The origin, the thing growing inside of her, must die. But it can't be killed by normal means. It's born of both worlds, and the energy of both worlds is needed to destroy it. The power of the apocalypse in both worlds will be directed onto this one point to destroy the origin and the
Mm-hmm.
whole universe. As
Mm-mm.
Marta sobs, Jonas rips the St. Christopher medallion from around her throat, and he says the fateful words that we have heard so often: Wir sind falsch, du und ich, in deiner Welt und in meiner. And I've heard these words so often, I decided to write them out in Spanish. Spanish. I decided we're going into 1899 mode. We're just using whatever language we want. No, I decided to just print these in German because I'm like, we don't even need this interpreted anymore.
Well, I do. What is he saying? You and me, we are perfect for each
We
other.
are wrong, you and I, in your world and in mine.
Oh, okay, okay. I just recognize the do and eached, but okay, yeah.
Yeah, the wir sind falsch is like we are false, we are wrong. You and I, du und ich, in deiner Welt, that's world, and in meiner, und in meiner. Yeah. Marta screams Jonas's name over and over again. Jonas's cold, Grinch-like heart seems to
Mm.
falter for a minute, and then he starts up the machinery and pushes the lever forward.
He seems like he's so proud of himself and like so proud of his machines at this
Yeah.
moment. And we're all hating him. We're not liking this choice.
Yeah.
And I hope you're wrong, Adam. I hope you're wrong. You're stupid. I don't like you. Talk to him like I'm a 5-year-old.
Yeah. It is really, I don't know, really it's a powerfully done scene. It's terrible. It's terrible. Like ripping the St. Christopher medallion from around her throat. The only time we saw that kind
Mm-hmm.
of imagery was with Katerina ripping it off of Helene's throat as she got murdered. And this is another type of murder right here.
Yeah, it absolutely is. This counts.
So we have the interlude, our montage. The music begins. The song is The Pioneers, and it's the M83 remix by Block Party.
Yeah, I
Terrible
wasn't familiar
name.
with this song.
Terrible
Ter
name for a band. I don't
Oh,
like.
you think so? I
It's
like
oh,
it.
it's kind of it's like one of those things like, oh, we're gonna spell like kicks like KIX to be cool, like because it's BLOC block party.
Doesn't that it gives it a different meaning though? Like that's I think block actually stands for something else when it's spelled this way. So it's like a double
Okay.
meaning kind of situation.
Do you know what that something is, Steve?
I could Google it.
I do like
I
the
do not.
song. I do like the song. I just think the name is kind of silly.
I love their Tiny Desk performance on NPR. I saw that and they killed it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm a big fan of M83, so I'm very familiar with their work. And it when I was like,
Oh,
oh, well, that makes sense. It's an M83, production because
I don't know
I totally buy.
M83. I thought that was just the name of this remix. I didn't know that was a band. So
Oh
that's new
yeah,
to
I've seen
me.
it in concert a bunch of times. It's another very uh, talented electronic band, Steve.
I mean, we like the same kind of music, so I'm going to take your word on it. I'll check them out.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you which album to listen to after the episode.
Okay.
Because it's one of those things like it's like, okay, if you're basic, you listen to this album, but if you're cool, you listen to this album. So I got some strong opinions about M83. All right,
Oh, I
so
get it too. Yeah. If I
yeah.
told you to listen to a Primus album and you listen to the wrong one, you'd be like, this band sucks. But if I told you the right album to listen to, you'd be like, okay, I see this. All right.
Oh my gosh, what did I say here? Okay, in one world, the younger and older unknown walk facing the bus stop in World 2, and in World 1, the middle-aged unknown takes the same path. They then walk towards the power plant. In World 2, Elizabeth meets older Noah. He takes her to the bunker to meet younger Noah. Unlike
Hmm.
in World 1, Noah wears beige clothes instead of his black uniform. I mean,
Hmm.
everybody, the whole team wears beige clothes,
Pretty much.
which I think is kind of boring.
Me too.
Basic, yeah. Okay. But Elizabeth and young Noah are the only ones in the bunker.
Right.
The put
In World
together
2.
Claudia meets unkempt Claudia. We saw this encounter earlier in the season, actually
Right.
last
Right.
episode. Older Bartosz too rescues his younger self, who was just abandoned by Marta. Stranger Marta appears at the Tannhaus factory in 1888 and places the letter on Stranger Jonas's desk. Just like in World 1, Jonas tried to destroy a letter that comes back to haunt him. She
Hmm.
also leaves the pocket watch nearby. This image confuses me a little because the factory looks much more up to date. And where are younger Magnus and Francisca?
I didn't notice either one of those things or make that connection. I just went along with Stranger Marta's ride here.
Hmm.
That's interesting. If the factory is older, this is like a later time. Because I would have think this was like the same day. But
Yeah, but like the floors are like beautiful and everything's shiny. Um, I do
hmm.
there in the next episode there are some scenes that say they take place in 1890 and it looks like
Hmm.
this. So I guess this is somehow it's 2 years
Okay.
later that
Okay.
so it might be that actually when Stranger Marta comes to the Tannhaus factory, it actually might be 1890 instead of 1888. But so it because it shows you Marta standing outside the factory, right? Then it cuts
Right.
to Stranger Jonas inside, kind of moving some things into place. And
Hmm.
I just noticed that like everything looks like it's been worked on. There's almost like a
Oh,
parquet floor.
you're exactly right. Yes.
Yeah, so I guess it's actually, like, 2 years later,
Okay.
maybe. And again, again, Magnus and Franziska, like, he would think they would be working with him,
Mhm.
but it's just him in there doing all the work by himself, and, of course, Bartosz isn't there because he's annoyed.
Maybe, yeah.
Um, okay, so I said I have to stop and just say that Bartosz and Marta too were on their way to stop the apocalypse from happening.
Yes.
Both Magnus and Franziska, Adam's henchmen, and Bartosz, one of Eva's foot soldiers, distracted them both from accomplishing that goal, which means neither team wants to stop the apocalypse. If we needed any further proof that both groups are lying, we have it.
Bam. There you go. You're exactly right. And yeah, I didn't make that connection too, that two of them were Adam's henchmen and one of them was Eva's henchmen, and they both diverged upon the group there to split them up. Good call.
Yeah, because once Marta left, Bartosz could have been like, well, I'm still going to stop my dad, right? But he didn't.
Right. And this older Bartosz stops from doing so.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a prime opportunity for the stranger Martha and stranger Jonas to finally meet and hook
Yes.
up. And it
Yes.
did you notice that too?
Yes, of course.
Missed opportunity right there. That could have been a
Mm.
whole nother season right there. But there could have been like the thing where like they maybe like adopted some kids and they get like a whole nother season out of like the kid stuff, like a stupid sitcom. Anyway, I'm gonna let you continue because I have a lot more notes for the rest you have up here.
Okay. Stranger Jonas looks at the leftover residue from the goo ball that Alt Marta left behind. Back on Adam's world, the unstable God particle begins to spin. Marta screams. The unknown gazes at the power plant keys in his hand. They use the keys to enter the volume control room in 1986. Ulrich, too, follows Helge into the cave and finds the red string and the air at Luck's door. Hannah pulls the gun out of her wooden box and considers shooting herself. Her plans are interrupted when she suffers a miscarriage. The lights flicker. Egon shows up and rescues Hannah somehow. We can only speculate what happens and how it connects to World 1. We also see Katerina with her arms wrapped around Mikkel. They are in what was Mikkel's art studio in World 1.
Yeah, I thought that was starting from the last one there. I loved seeing Mikkel again. It's always a treat to see Mikkel because, like, he's the perennial favorite. He was the darling of episode 1. So
Mhm.
it's always great to come back to Mikkel. Um, I had to point out that where are we at here? Egon.
Mhm.
I don't know if we get I don't think we get any kind of clear clarification later on. So
Mm-mm.
I'm going to speculate away.
Okay.
So this is Hannah in World 2, and she's pregnant with Ulrich's child,
Right.
and she has a miscarriage. So Egon is there to save her, not to save the baby because there's already blood. It's already
Mhm.
been miscarried. That baby is not being saved, but Egon is going to help her, maybe get her to the hospital, and then probably later on to time travel her. No, not to time travel her. My whole point here is that a baby is born. We know that there's a baby that is born of Hannah, right?
Mhm. Well, I mean, we
I
don't
think
see if I may, one person says their theory is that Egon takes Hannah to the 1950s
right.
to hook up with younger Egon.
Yeah, that's what I was going with that. Yes.
However, for that to be a what happens, then you would think there would be a Celia too. But I don't know if we ever see more than one Celia. So does it mean that she doesn't exist or that she's not in this world, but we never really see such a thing?
But they say that he needs to like preserve the family tree though.
Yes. Yes. Yes, that's a good point. That's a good thing to bring up. She says that
So it seems like he's
Egon must create your past to preserve the family tree. Yeah. I mean, Bartosz is like stands up from like a superhero landing, so that was kind of cool. The older Bartosz.
oh yeah.
Like he was
Like a
kneeling and he's
squirrel.
standing. Well, like the I don't know, like I know you don't really watch Marvel stuff.
I'm very familiar. I don't watch them, but I'm
Okay.
familiar.
But they have what's called the super the superhero
Yes,
landing
yes,
where the fist is on the ground and everything. And
yes.
in the movie Black Widow, Florence
Mm-hmm.
Pugh kind of says, "Why do you always have to stand up like that?" And she like there's this running joke that she's like trying to make sure she perfects the superhero landing. She's like nailed it because she needs to look cool. Um,
Well, when I see the superhero landing, I think about squirrels because, like, have you ever seen those memes of like squirrels when they fall out of a tree and they always do the superhero landing if you freeze frame or just the right moment? So there's lots of like memes of squirrels doing the superhero stance.
that's funny. I have never seen that before.
You will now. All right.
I'll be looking for some squirrel memes after this. Okay, so Adam closes his eyes as the God particle becomes a tornado that swallows Marta. Her destruction is terrible, her screams intense and haunting. In 2019, World 2, Alexander and Charlotte enter the nuclear reactor room.
Hmm.
Unlike in World 1, the barrels have not been hidden yet. So they're not on that fake floor or anything that for
Hmm.
Clausen to say, break the floor apart. Alexander, once again, is trying to come clean. He opens a yellow barrel. I'm not sure what he was trying to accomplish here. The unknown turns a wheel and releases some valves, and the black matter in the barrel rises into tendrils and becomes a huge black balloon. The apocalypse explodes as Magnus and Francisca watch.
It's such a neat way to end the episode with the two of them getting zapped up with their love. Yeah, I think he opened up the barrel just to like show um Charlotte, because they were in their suits, it'd be safe to show her so, and he could be like, "Oh, this stuff is illegal, and you know we're bad people, and Hannah's going to narc us out." So, like, yeah, like you said, he's trying to come clean. But the more important thing here is the unknown. Um, I still don't love the unknown, but I understand this makes sense now. Why there's three of them. This finally makes sense. So that one of them can go to Jonas's world to do the apocalypse, and then he can send his kid and then the older version to do the Martha apocalypse so that the young version can learn from the old guy so that they can perpetuate everything that's happening. So like the three unknowns finally make sense to me just with this episode alone. So I'm okay with them now. Kind of.
Yeah, visually you have this strange image of the older, of course, the middle-aged unknown. He's by himself, so he does everything, turns the wheel and all that. But in the other world, the older unknown is turning the valves, and the young unknown is like holding a piece of paper with like the
Mhm.
directions on it.
Mhm.
Turn
Yeah.
wheel 3 times, and like it just, yeah.
He's learned to be a good little unknown. That's, it's great. Getting his homework in. This is
Yeah.
homeschool for the guy, right?
Homeschool, I guess. But it
But yeah,
creates some really cool, of those mirror images. You've got,
oh
um,
yeah,
where they're, like, walking into doorways, and it looks like they're walking into each other
I
almost,
love
and
it.
sometimes
Yes.
they're facing opposite directions, sometimes they face each other, and so, yeah.
Yeah, you got the great image here on your One of My Stories website where you got like the machinery and the three guys standing there doing their thing in the two worlds. I'm gonna steal that picture and put it on my Instagram. Hope you know that. I'm not gonna pay you for it. um, let's see. Yeah, we got to talk. I guess Adam here. What does he
Mm.
think he's doing? Can I go into my least favorite people of the episode?
Well, yeah,
Because
before we do that, I think we do need to I'm like, "Okay, I've sort of failed here." We haven't
how
really said
so?
anything about we haven't said anything about the fact that, like, Adam is like, okay, we it's in the recap, but Adam takes Marta and puts her on this big pile of debris and ties her
Mm-hmm.
up. She's in her underwear and puts the
Mm-hmm.
full force of both apocalypses on her. And what do you think about that plan, Steve?
I mean, if you really truly believe that that's the origin, then it kind of makes sense. But at the same time, it really doesn't. It doesn't have to be like so cruel and like villainy about it. I guess that's TV for you. It's part of a TV show. But it seems like,
Mhm.
it could have been a lot nicer. He could have just like put her in a nice room and like gave her like a poisoned meal and, like she wouldn't even know about it and gave her a sweet kiss goodnight, my dear.
Mhm.
But I guess in his mind, he thinks that the God particle has to be the killing blow. And maybe he's right. I don't know, but I have a feeling that he's wrong. But I mean, I feel the same way about this scene as I do about the Elizabeth scene from last episode with Isaac Dentler. It's like this is a long, drawn out scene that I don't particularly enjoy, and it has like a tinge of evil to it. Um, I know Adam thinks he's doing the right thing here, but he sure is going about it in the wrong way.
Mhm.
I guess that's what I got to say about it.
Yeah, it's pretty cruel, but I guess in a way maybe he has to do it this way because underneath all of that scarring there is a person underneath, and he has to sort of dehumanize Marta in a way. um
Why would he have to? Why do you think he would tell himself he has to do that? Oh, to make it easier to kill her, I guess.
yeah,
That's Jonas under there. That doesn't make
like
any sense to me.
he can't be kind, he can't like be kind about it, he needs to separate himself. He's got a picture of these baby boys in his diary, so
Well, he even changes his name too.
mhm,
So you
yeah.
could say that is like another way to separate himself from Jonas and Marta because he's not Jonas anymore. Now he's somebody else.
Yeah. Oh, so the letter. What I want to say about the letter is that again, it's one of these things that like, oh, it's obvious, but it's like something I just realized that last night. I was like, okay, so how did Noah get Marta's letter? At the end of season 2, Stranger Jonas is inside his house and he's like, I'm going to wait for Adam with the gun, and it's then delivered by Teen Noah to Jonas, and he says, "Here's this letter." Jonas then reads the letter, and that's when he leaves the house and goes to rescue Bartosz, Franziska, and Magnus, and takes them with him to 1888. Jonas. So when Noah gives the letter to Stranger Jonas, it's not really a message from Marta to him. It's a message from Adam to make Stranger Jonas leave the house.
Okay, all right.
Then later, once Jonas grows up to be Stranger Jonas, then he burns the letter. So the letter
Hmm.
is bootstrapped through time, like it's written later than it's used or believed, and it's destroyed in the past way before it's written.
I'm still not fully on board. I feel like I need to go back and either rewatch that episode or re-listen to our discussion about it. Because
Okay.
I'm a little floored and unprepared here with that question. Lindsay, you did it. You flustered me.
Well, it's taken me 33 years to figure out the journey of the letter, Steve.
Congrats.
It feels like we're like an Eva Adam pair, because I'm like, Steve doesn't see how it's all connected.
And Lindsay's a logical one over there. That's right.
But yes, I could be wrong, so feel free to poke holes in my theory.
That's to the listeners, not to me. So, listeners, help me out.
And yeah, well, no, it is to both everybody. So, anywho's, yes, should we now talk about favorite characters, least favorite characters?
Absolutely. Who goes first? We rock, paper, scissors, knit, or what you want to do?
I don't know. I'll be gracious and let you go first.
Okay, favorite character this episode. She wasn't exactly a standout, but just knowing what she has orchestrated, Eva by a mile. Like,
Whoa.
Eva, Eva, Eva. And I'm going to go in and say, I'm going to just bust right in here and say, my least favorite is Adam. Adam is screwing up here, murdering Martha, right? He thinks he's got all these answers. He wants to end it all. But what is Eva doing? Eva is like organizing. She's got this whole crew. She's got all these people. She's got this elaborate plan to intermingle in with Adam's world. I think she's got her head on her shoulder a lot better than Adam does. So my least was Adam by a mile. You can see why. I dare you to say anybody else is worse. And I got to give it to Eva for the mirroring reason. You got to mirror these things, right? Jonas and Martha, Adam and Eva. She did a great job this episode. A lot of planning.
You just preemptively broke in there with your least favorite character.
I had to because I had to explain why she was my favorite because Adam was my least favorite. So it makes perfect sense.
Well, I was
So how
not.
about you?
Well, I was not surprised. I was not expecting you to say Eva.
Okay.
So now that makes my MVP a little more tricky, because I was expecting you to pick one of these other people, and I picked the other one.
Who were you expecting me to
Okay.
pick?
Well, I put down Alexander or Bartosz
You thought that I would pick one of them?
for your favorite. Yeah. But
Yeah, I mean,
because you've
I
been
thought
like
about
defending Bartosz the whole time.
Mhm. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I have because I do like Bartosh a lot.
You're like
I'm liking him more and
Bartosz for the
more.
haircut.
Yeah, and for the bike ride, he gave her a ride. That's cool.
um So I'm gonna say the reason I would have picked Alexander is just because I feel like he's got a true redemption arc in this episode. He's trying to do
Oh
the right
yeah,
thing, even though, yeah, I still don't. I know you were saying, oh, he just wanted to show Charlotte, but it's like, in what world is that like a good idea? Let's open these barrels and be like, look what
yeah,
I
you're
put
right.
in here, surprise, and then cause an apocalypse. So there is not
It
even
had
a
to happen.
Clausen. Yeah. Um, but I guess I will give it to Bartosh, because I'm actually a secret
Nice.
Bartosh stan. I mean, like, I've been like a
Aha.
fan. Like, I think the thing that's cool about Bartosh is because they position him from the get-go to be almost like a school foe, like a frenemy to Jonas.
Yeah, that's right.
And so
Yep.
we're almost groomed to not like Bartosz from the beginning. But by the end, we kind of see you really feel for Bartosz, but it's not a pity vote. I mean, he really does have a lot of great assets. He's a very loyal friend, and he does probably his main weakness is he's a little bit of a sucker for women, I would say, um but yeah, he gets thwarted by women all the time. but um but yeah, he was like he got some bad news from his dad. He didn't reject Marta. He tries to help her, and then he gets left and abandoned. And so I'm glad his older self came in to rescue him.
I'm glad you picked him because I didn't, so I'm glad that you picked it up. So
Yeah, but
heck yeah for Bartosz.
I'm glad I also did get a chance to say some nice things about Alexander too, because I feel like Alexander's trying. But
He
yeah,
raised Bartosz, so
yeah.
good job.
Our LVP is going to have to be Adam across the board.
Oh yeah, thank you. I'd be upset if you said somebody else.
So yeah, I don't really think I have anything I need to add to what you said. It's he's very cold in his actions. Yeah, the only thing nice I can say about Adam is he does have a good sense of fashion.
Yes, he does. He does. Even though, a tan suit, I don't know. We know how we feel about tan suits. I don't know about that. Season one, Adam. I mean, it looked nice and sharp, but I would have picked a darker color. But
Mm.
another knock against Adam for the color of his suit and for what he did to Martha. But yeah, the next episode is episode 7, which is the in between time one. That one feels like it's going to be a treat because I really
Mhm.
remember that one as being like a super fun episode before the finale. And I know
Mhm.
that, like, we love Deja Vu, but I think, like, Between Times, I think is what it's called, the next one.
Mhm.
Massively looking forward to it. Massively looking forward to watching it again because I remember the first time I watched it. Um, it just, I mean, after watching this episode and then the way episode 7 starts off, it's just a great juxtaposition, and I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I don't have anything else to wrap us up with. So, where do you want to plug? Where do you want to point people to this week?
Well, I wanted to let everybody know that I am in 2 critics groups. One of them is the Southeastern Film Critics Association, the other is North Carolina Film Critics Association. Today, Southeastern Film Critics Association released their awards for the year. I have made a post on
Mm,
one of my stories about that. So if you like hearing about movies, like what this isn't the Oscars, this is the ones we as members of this group have awarded, but you can check
cool.
out that winners list if you would like. I am slightly more invested in the NC Film Critics Association, as that's the group I'm more involved in. They will be releasing their winners closer to the beginning of January,
Okay.
but I am going to be making a podcast on Wednesday. So 2 days from now, I'm going to be doing a podcast with a few other of the NC film critics to talk about what our nominations are. Unlike
Cool.
Southeastern, North Carolina actually makes a nomination list first and then we choose winners. So it's a little bit more of a process. And I'm excited to get to talk to some of my fellow members about the picks and kind of what might be the actual winners. So it's just going to be like a speculation about that.
Okay.
um, I will also be making my personal top 10 movies list. Not sure when that will be in. I'm going out of town this week and won't be back for a while. But the last thing I wanted to promote is just that I made a discovery last night that Flynn Edwards, who played Elliot in 1899, and Steve already saw this, but it turns out he is in The Crown, which is
Mhm.
one of my guilty pleasures, a show I really enjoy.
Same.
And and Elliot played the young Prince Harry, and I was
Little
like,
Harry.
yeah, I was just surprised because, like, I had already watched the first they did season 6, they did, like, a part 1 and a part 2, which is an annoying
Mhm.
thing they're doing now, but part 1, the first 4 episodes released, and now in part 2, Prince Harry is now a teenager, so they have a different actor portraying him.
Mhm.
But one of my favorite episodes was the episode 4 of season 6 where they kind of show the aftermath. I think the name of the episode is Aftermath,
Mhm.
and they show a recreation of when Harry and William and Philip and Charles all did the march and walked behind the coffin of Diana.
Oh
And I
god.
was sitting
Yeah.
there watching this. It was one of my favorite moments of the whole series. And I was like, I recognize that face, but I was like, no, that can't be. Would they have had a German actor? I guess well, I don't know what nationality Flynn is, as a matter of fact, but I was like, would they have had someone that wasn't British playing? Um, but he was British, wasn't he?
Mhm. Sure was.
So, and there you go. I guess he actually might be Welsh. I mean, I think the name Flynn is like a Welsh name. I'll have to look up the origin. But anyway, he's in the show and he's wonderful. So it was just great to see another 1899 cast member in the wild.
I know. I love to see him too. It's great. I'm glad. I would have never known that, and it was cool that you shouted him out. He responded, and I wondered. I was like, huh, I wonder if anybody else is like pointing this out to the guy, and if like he's been waiting for somebody to recognize him, and you gave him his flowers. So good job.
Well, he actually when I went to look at his Instagram, he had made posts to share like, "Oh, I was in the Crown," but I guess I missed that. I'm not sure. I am subscribed to him, but I don't know. But
I don't know. Instagram doesn't show you everybody's stuff all the time, especially when you like subscribe to a lot of people. I miss a ton of stuff on Instagram. It just happens.
yeah. But do you have anything to promote, Steve?
I would like our listeners to go check out one of my stories and look at those top 10 movies of 2023 because that's what I'm looking forward to. I've been waiting for this. So that's my only plug is I want to see those top 10 movies of 2023 too. Because I didn't go out to see a lot of movies, and me and Heather are anxious to check them out.
Mhm.
So yeah, no plugs here. Just I'm happy people are listening to Sweet Child of Time. I'm happy you're providing our recaps for us. Um, yeah, and we're at the 2.5 hour mark here, so I guess we'll start tailing it out. So yeah, thanks again for providing the recap for us, Lindsay, and thanks for joining me once again. It's always a pleasure.
You're welcome, Steve. Thank you.
And thank me, no, thank you. And then to all our listeners out there, I hope you all always find water and shade and shoes. Bye.
Bye.